Putin's energy grip slips, U.S. gas surges.
Spain opens to U.S. gas, Russia losing control.
U.S. LNG floods Europe as Putin's power wanes.
Russia's energy stranglehold begins to crumble.
Putin's energy empire is cracking fast. Spain just told the EU it's ready to cut Russian LNG years ahead of schedule. That means Europe's biggest gateway for gas is turning toward the US, not Moscow. Billions in American LNG exports are already lined up, and Russia's cash lifeline is shrinking by the day. This is the shift Putin swore would never happen, and it's happening now. For decades, Russia sold dominance by the cubic meter. In 2021, before the war in Ukraine, the EU imported roughly 155 billion cubic meters of gas from Russia, about 45% of Europe's supply. Those pipelines and LNG cargoes brought the Kremlin more than $120 billion a year, nearly half of Moscow's entire export revenue. Then came 2022. Nord Stream explosions, sanctions, price shocks, gas rations. Europe swore to end its dependence, but few believed it could. Now, Spain just proved it can. Spain's gas operator Enagás told Reuters that its infrastructure is ready to accelerate the EU ban on Russian LNG imports by 2027, and possibly sooner. Spain already hosts 6 LNG terminals, the largest network in Europe, handling over 1/3 of the continent's import capacity. Its storage facilities are 80% full, the Bay of Biscay is lined with new regasification plants, pipelines to France and Portugal are expanding, and for the first time, those pipes are being redesigned for US LNG. In the last 2 years alone, US gas exports to Spain have jumped by over 140%. Roughly 40% of Spain's LNG now arrives from the United States, a record high and a symbol of Europe's new alignment. Let's talk numbers. In 2023, US LNG exports hit a record 86 million metric tons, more than any other nation on Earth. By mid-2025, that figure is on track to top 90 million tons, thanks to new terminals in Louisiana, Texas, and Florida. Roughly 65% of those shipments now head to Europe. Spain alone received more than 75 US cargoes in the first half of this year, enough to power 20 million homes for a month. That means America isn't just a supplier anymore, it's Europe's energy anchor. Meanwhile, in Moscow, the numbers tell a different story. Pipeline gas revenues have fallen by more than 60% since 2021. LNG exports, the last reliable stream of hard currency for the Kremlin, are down nearly 30% since sanctions hit the shipping sector earlier this year. That's billions vanishing from Putin's war budget. Russia's federal deficit in 2025 has already exceeded $37 billion, double what was projected by its own finance ministry. Even with oil sales to India and China, energy revenues can't fill the gap. For the first time, Putin's energy weapon is backfiring.
Europe's map has changed. LNG terminals in Germany, once non-existent, now stand in Wilhelmshaven, Brunsbüttel, and Lubmin. The EU has invested over 40 billion euros in new gas corridors and floating storage units since 2022. Spain's infrastructure is the linchpin. Its ports receive and re-export gas to France, Italy, and even North Africa. Every additional ship that docks in Bilbao or Cartagena strengthens the US-EU energy link and weakens Russia's grip. European gas imports from Russia have plunged from 40% in 2021 to just under 15% today, and most of that through LNG shipments Spain now plans to eliminate. The impact at home is real. US LNG export projects support about 80,000 jobs across the Gulf Coast. Shipbuilders in Texas and Mississippi are working around the clock to expand capacity. But there's a trade-off. As more gas flows overseas, domestic prices edge up. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Henry Hub natural gas prices averaged $2.90 per MMBTU last year, projected to rise above $3.50 if exports keep climbing. For Americans, that's a bigger heating bill and higher power costs, the price of winning an energy war. Back in Washington, lawmakers are split. Some call this a strategic victory. America replacing Russian gas in Europe is geopolitical revenge without a shot fired. Others warn that Europe's dependence on US LNG could turn into a mirror of the past, a new form of energy addiction just with different pipes.
Environmental groups add another layer of tension. They argue that billions poured into LNG locks the West into fossil fuels long after the green transition deadline. Yet for now, the political math is simple. Every tanker leaving Sabine Pass is a tanker Putin can't profit from. Energy is the quiet weapon of this war. Each cubic meter that moves through a US pipeline instead of a Russian one translates to less funding for missiles, drones, and propaganda. Analysts estimate Russia has lost roughly $150 million a day in foregone European sales since mid-2024. And here's the strategic twist. Europe's energy security is now protected not by troops, but by tankers. Every ship that lands in Spain or Poland is a floating deterrent. So where does this lead? Can Spain and the EU really maintain a Russian LNG ban without sending energy prices soaring again? Will US export capacity keep up or collapse under its own success? And most importantly, if Russia's gas revenues continue to crash, what happens inside the Kremlin's war machine? Now, we'll break down the global fallout, the winners, the risks, and the new energy map that no one can reverse. The numbers keep shifting, and fast. In 2021, Russia supplied 45% of the EU's gas. By mid-2025, it's under 12%. The US alone now covers nearly half of Europe's LNG imports, more than Qatar and Nigeria combined.
Spain is the front line. Its 6 LNG terminals are running at nearly 85% capacity, feeding France and Italy through expanded interconnectors. The EU Commission estimates that if the Russian LNG ban is finalized in 2027, US suppliers could capture an extra 35 billion cubic meters of annual sales, worth almost $18 billion a year. That's not an energy story, that's a tectonic transfer of power. For the White House, this isn't just exports, it's leverage. Each shipment strengthens alliances, stabilizes prices, and deepens European dependence on American infrastructure. And with elections on the horizon, the optics matter. US jobs up, Russia's war chest down. Gulf Coast terminals in Cameron, Calcasieu Pass, and Corpus Christi are expanding by another 60 million tons per year by 2027. Analysts at Rystad Energy project that will generate 90,000 direct and indirect US jobs and up to $30 billion in export revenue annually. But that boom brings political risk, because every cubic meter shipped to Europe is one less for the US domestic market. Natural gas futures already jumped 14% since April 2025. If another cold winter hits, or if industrial demand rebounds, American consumers will feel it in their heating bills. The same headlines celebrating Putin's fall could turn into America's price shock. Moscow isn't conceding, it's repositioning. The Kremlin has pivoted east, signing long-term deals with China and India. A new Power of Siberia 2 pipeline promises 50 billion cubic meters annually to China by 2030, but construction delays and financing issues persist.
Meanwhile, Russia's Arctic LNG 2 project, once its flagship, has stalled after Western insurers withdrew coverage. Only one of its 3 production trains is online, operating at below 40% capacity. That leaves the Kremlin trapped, abundant gas, but nowhere profitable to send it. Foreign currency reserves have fallen from $640 billion in 2021 to about $550 billion today. Energy revenues, once 37% of Russia's budget, now set near 24%. Put simply, the energy power that bankrolled wars is bleeding out. In Brussels, the numbers look brighter. Gas storage across the EU is at 95% full, the highest ever recorded for summer months. Benchmark TTF gas prices, which hit 340 euros per megawatt hour in 2022, are now around 34 euros per megawatt hour, a 90% collapse. That's not luck, that's diversification. Spain, France, and Germany are each adding new regas units. Together, they'll add 70 billion cubic meters of non-Russian capacity by 2027. It's the infrastructure backbone of an energy-independent Europe. But there's tension underneath. The EU's climate wing worries this LNG flood locks Europe into fossil dependence until at least 2040. The Commission's answer is blunt: security first, transition second. For Putin, that single sentence is defeat. His entire foreign policy depended on fear of freezing, fear of shortages, fear of bills. When Europe stopped fearing, Russia lost control. Yet in Washington, there's unease too. If European demand dips once renewables ramp up, US exporters could face overcapacity. Billions in terminals could become stranded assets, the mirror image of Russia's ghost pipelines. Energy dominance, like empire, has a half-life.
Beyond Europe, this shift is reshaping the entire LNG map. Japan and South Korea, long-term buyers of US cargoes, are renegotiating contracts because Europe outbids them. Qatar is accelerating its North Field East expansion to reclaim market share, and developing nations from Pakistan to Bangladesh are struggling to afford spot cargoes as Western demand soaks up supply. So while Putin loses his leverage, a new question emerges. Is the West creating another global imbalance, this time under its own flag? Wars aren't just fought with weapons anymore. They're fought with contracts, ports, and prices. The US LNG network, 7 export terminals, 15 under construction, has become a strategic shield as critical as NATO's tanks. Every shipment to Spain, France, or Poland is a line of deterrence written in megawatts. And for Moscow, every cargo that doesn't arrive means less funding for the battlefield. Analysts at the International Energy Agency estimate that by 2026, reduced gas revenue could cut Russia's military budget by nearly 20%. That's the hidden front of the energy war. Quiet, cold, and crippling. Spain's role is bigger than geography. With its LNG capacity and North African pipeline links, it's positioning as Europe's gas hub and soon a hydrogen corridor. Madrid plans to export green hydrogen to France and Germany by 2030, using the same infrastructure built for LNG today. That means Spain wins twice, money from US gas now and leadership in renewables later. A decade ago, it was an energy outsider. Today, it's rewriting the rules of European power.
From an economic lens, the US has already won this round. Export revenues up, trade deficit narrower, and geopolitical influence at a 20-year high. But there's the second edge, political fatigue at home. Voters watching higher utility bills may not cheer a distant victory in Europe. The administration knows that, hence the push for new subsidies, efficiency credits, and energy independence for all rhetoric. Because every empire, even an energy empire, needs domestic peace to sustain foreign reach. Scenario 1, the alliance holds. US and EU coordination deepens, prices stabilize, Russia's market share slips below 10%. Result, low inflation, stable growth, and a geopolitical realignment that lasts a generation. Scenario 2, the backfire. Global supply tightens, LNG prices spike, voters in Europe revolt against energy costs. Result, populist backlash, weaker climate policy, and openings for Russian influence through Asia. Scenario 3, the innovation shock. Breakthroughs in hydrogen or synthetic methane cut LNG demand by half. Russia's relevance vanishes, but so does America's export boom. Result, the fastest energy transition in history and a new economic race. Energy wars rarely end with surrender. They end with silence. No speeches, no treaties, just pipelines that stop mattering. Putin built an empire on dependency. Spain just proved how fast dependency can be dismantled. And in doing so, it handed the West not just fuel, but freedom of maneuver.
Yet history is clear. The side that wins the energy war must then win the transition that follows. If America and Europe use this victory to build cleaner, cheaper systems, the win endures. If not, the next Putin will find a new pipeline to weaponize. For now, the verdict is simple. The energy battlefield has changed hands. Putin's empire is cracking, and the sound is global.